Welcome back to the Drive Home Reviews podcast, where I review the movies I have just seen as I am driving home from the theater. And, you know, folks, there comes a moment in everyone's life when we have to admit that we are old. Now, that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad moment. I think it's most people's goal to be an old person at some point. But it is a sobering experience when you suddenly realize that you are not the driving force of pop culture any longer. That there is a new generation that has their interests and has their own mythology and their own heroes and villains, and yours have fallen into the realm of nostalgia. Now, this happened fairly early on for me. I think it might have been around the time that the movies I watched when I was a kid were celebrating their 25th anniversary DVD releases, which that alone dates me. But the real moment came for me when I was watching Pokemon for the first time with my cousin's young son. My cousin's young son, by the way, who is now an adult, married, and ready to have his own kid. So that gives you an idea of how long this has been. But I remember watching Pokemon and having to acknowledge the fact I just didn't get it. And no matter how much he tried to explain it to me, I now realize I had the same look on my face that my parents had had when I tried to explain Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to them. So, this is a thing that happens, and it's okay. It's fine. I don't tell you this and start out my review in this manner as a woe is me. It is a simple statement of fact that time marches on and that we have to acknowledge when certain things are no longer made for us as an audience. They're made for a younger generation. And so therefore, the appeal of something, the visual cues, the inside jokes, they are going to be lost on a novice. And so the things that I see in a movie aimed at a younger generation that make no sense to me may be the greatest thing in the world to the intended audience of that property. So I want that to be understood, that I am acknowledging up front that I am not the audience for a Minecraft movie. That is, I am not the person that this is aimed for. And so the people for whom it is the game of their youth, the game of their right now, you know, and who enjoy it and whatnot, they clearly got more out of this than I did. I know very, very little about Minecraft. Everything I know about Minecraft, I basically learned from that South Park episode.
Minecraft, it don't got no winner. It don't got no objective. You just building.
Yes, I'm getting it now.
You are?
No.
And the only other thing I know is that it is a very, very handy learning tool. I know a number of teachers who use Minecraft in their computer classes to teach coding and computer programming. So that's awesome. But the appeal of it, the down and dirty of it, it's never something that appealed to me. I understand that it's a game of creation. It's not one of goals and achievements and quests and all of this, that, and the other thing. I get that. So, that's a lot of preferencing in order to say I this movie was boring as fuck. I couldn't. I could not get into it. I just didn't care.
You see, they just didn't care.
Let me give you an example. I lie a little bit in my intro. I actually watched this one on HBO Max. It took me 3 days to get through it because I was constantly looking for something else to go do that would get me away from the television and mean I didn't have to sit there and continuously watch the Minecraft movie. This is probably going to be one of my shorter reviews because I don't have much to say. I think the prime thing about this film that is very disappointing is that for a movie about a property, and they state this several times in the film, that Minecraft is a world about creativity and about imagination and about all this, that, and the other thing. This film has a startling lack of any of it. It is so paint by numbers. The characters are so one-dimensional and boring. The storyline is it's the same thing. There's a magic MacGuffin. There is an evil person after it. The good guys are trying to get it away from them. Of course, because it's another world, you've got a group of people who are just trying to get home. You've got, your Jumanji character, like Robin Williams. That's Jack Black here, who's been living in the world, so he knows the rules, so he can explain it to the audience. You've got the douchebag with the heart of gold, played by Jason Momoa. You got a couple of annoying kids and a sassy black woman. I'm sorry, I don't mean for that to sound racist or rude, but that is her character. That there is nothing to this person. There's nothing to any of these people. The only thing I will say, this movie does avoid the chosen one narrative. There isn't a prophecy or anything like that somebody will come along to save the world of Minecraft or whatever. They avoid that, but it's still kind of there because one of the kids, the younger brother, it's shown that he's an outcast because he's creative, because he doodles and draws things, and the world doesn't appreciate creativity, blah, 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 blah. And I have to say, is that true? Is that true in this day and age? Is that... I have never... Maybe I'm teaching in the wrong schools, but all the places I've taught, no art class has ever gotten mad at someone for having artistic skill. He gets in trouble because they're doing a still life and he draws the banana with a jetpack, and the teacher's like, no, that's not what happens. I think maybe an art teacher would say, hey, that's really good, but the goal of this is to concentrate on shading and light and things like that. But it still looked like the kid did a pretty good job of it. I don't know any art teacher who would be pissed at them for that. So yeah, so he is kind of your chosen one, even though they never actually say it. The film that I kept being reminded of was the Lego Movie, the original. Because there again was a property that I had no interest in. Even as a kid, I was not a Lego builder and didn't care about Legos, and because it's just a building block thing, it's like, how do you make a movie out of that? But that film was so creative and interesting. Its characters were mockeries of the standard hero's journey characters, the wise mentor, the chosen one, the villain. Visually, it was incredibly interesting because of everything they could do with it. You know, the storyline was, even to this day, is still surprisingly deep and touching. This movie has none of that. It has no interest in any of that. Like, okay, visually, the film, this is the problem with the CGI world these days. This is one of the issues, is that it's lost its spectacle. You see a CGI world and it's like, okay, it looks just like the world from the Super Mario Brothers movie, the animated one. It's bright, it's colorful, but there's no substance to anything. You know? So it looks good, but who gives a shit? I will say, being fair, the main villain, who I don't remember her name, she is pretty interesting looking. She has some neat animation, to the point where there were some moments I was like, is that animation or is that like a practical suit? She has kind of a Skeksis look to her. And so when she moved and she was on screen, that was visually interesting to look at and go, oh, wow, okay, that's kind of cool. I don't know, you know, but that's about it. And so I think they were hoping that the charisma of our live action actors, our big name stars, were going to help carry this movie through, and it doesn't work. Everybody is terrible here. Everybody is awful. Jack Black is someone I have actually gone to bat for in recent years. I did not like him in a lot of his earlier films, but I've warmed up to him in things like Jumanji, where I thought he did a really excellent job in both of those movies. He's also in one of my favorite movies of all time, The Big Year, where he's really good. So I know Jack Black can be good. He's not here. This feels like an excuse for him to make a bunch of his stupid words. Kaboom! Shabang! Shabee! Shibuki! You know? And to plug more of his meme-worthy songs, like he did with Bowser in the Mario Brothers movie. You know, he sings a bunch of stupid songs here, and I think that was all he was interested in doing. Jason Momoa, oh my God. Jason Momoa, he is one of these actors that is either really compelling and charismatic in everything he's in, or he's just woefully miscast and out of his depth, and he is out of his depth here. So he is trying to play this aging 80s video game champion who is our scoundrel. He's out for himself. He just wants the diamonds, but then we show that he's a good person at heart. You know the archetype. And he is trying so hard to be funny that it hurts. Like, it is just not funny. And I think maybe if they had toned him down, instead of having him be this cartoon character, having him be just a buff dude, you know, in this world that you wouldn't expect a buff dude like him to be in. And there's also the germ of a good idea and an interesting dynamic here, is that he's a champion gamer from the 80s when games had, you know, they say the game he was a champion at was some side-scroller, one of those side-scroller brawlers, which was really popular, and I know because I've played them and they're awesome. But the problem is this never really comes into play. So there's an interesting idea of a person who was a champion at, you know, old school games, now in this world where there's no clear objective and no clear villains to fight and no quest to go on. They do a little joke with it at the very beginning, and then they drop the concept completely. But there was something interesting they could have said about the differences in gaming styles and, you know, how video games have evolved. But this movie's not interested in any of that. it doesn't care. You know, it wants to get to the next unsatisfying slapstick or no chemistry confrontation between Jack Black and Jason Momoa, or the kid whining. You know, even the kid, his arc isn't really given anything. He's not given an arc. We're told he's given an arc, but it's not real. It just feels like, oh, these are the beats I'm supposed to go through for the hero's journey, and I've done that, and I'm done. And what the fuck is Jennifer Coolidge doing here? Why the fuck is she here? Other than to have this weird scenes where she's on a date with one of the characters from the Minecraft world with a big head that, again, is not fucking funny. The movie is telling me it's funny. That is the problem. The movie keeps telling me these scenes and these characters and these situations are funny or exciting. I see no evidence of it. I see absolutely no evidence of it. I don't know what else to say about this. I can't even recommend anything. I say there's one good character who's kind of animated well. There's 1.5 maybe good jokes in it. But ultimately, it's pointless. It has no freaking point. It's there for I recognize that. I know what that is. It has nothing else to say, nothing else to do. And I'm granted they're given a hard task. Video game to movie translations are historically very difficult, and even video games with a clear narrative have a hard time with it. So one without a clear narrative is already facing an uphill battle. But the difference, ironically, is that a story or a video game with no narrative means it's not bound by anything. You could tell any story you wanted. You're limited by nothing but your imagination, which they keep saying is the most important thing. And this is what they come up with. So clearly this movie spoke to the fans of the video game. Clearly it spoke to the fans of the genre. So that's great. I'm glad you have a movie that you appreciate. For me, The Outsider, I'm sorry. This is Drek. That's the other thing with the Jennifer Coolidge thing. There's no payoff. Maybe there is. Maybe they get a post-credit scene or something. I didn't know, because once the first sets of credit ended, I was done, and I didn't even care to fast forward to see if there was anything at the end. So yeah, it's not for me. That's all I'm saying. It's not for me. So yeah, one of my shorter reviews because I don't have a lot to say. So let's just wrap this up and put a fork in it. So, final grade for a Minecraft movie, I'm going a D. It's a D for this one. This was not a movie that was worth destroying theaters for, in my opinion. It's not. Who cares? Not me is the tagline. So yeah, D on this one. Skip it. All right. So there you have it. Thank you again. Thanks for coming with me. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for listening. And as always, drive safe, and I will see you at the movies.